Hi everyone. So I'm carrying on again here with more information regarding the Exilarch from Babylon, who I believe we can identify as the dragon. And I believe that this dragon gives power to the beast of the earth, which is the Islamic Empire back around the time of Muhammad. I believe that Muhammad or Mahmed or the Blessed One is the false prophet. And the beast of the sea, which is the Western Roman Empire, with Roman Catholicism rising out of that system, and the whore or Israel, the royal family of King David, the Exilarch riding the beast. She comes out of the wilderness, and this is exactly where the Exilarch found their powers, on the king's spice and Silk Road as merchants and traders. As of Revelation 18, verse 4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Now remember, heaven was a metaphor for the kingdom of Israel. And in Isaiah, we have the three parts of heaven, or the three thirds, which is Egypt, Assyria, and Israel. And Israel received the inheritance via Jesus, who is the rightful king of the throne of David, not these exilarchs from Babylon. So her sins have reached to the temple system in Jerusalem, up into heaven. Reward her even as she has rewarded you, and double her unto her double according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and I am no widow. So, she murdered her husband, Jesus, and yet she says, I am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. Lament over Babylon, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her. So, we look in history, and these kings of the earth have indeed committed fornication with this house of David, Exilarchs from Babylon. When they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold and silk, precious stones and pearls, and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and all thine wood, all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all the things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company of the ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, the great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour she is made desolate. So many people who try to interpret prophecy from Revelation say that this is the Roman Church. And I'm not saying it's not the Roman Church, because there's a lot of imagery here that does depict the Roman Catholic Church. What I'm saying is that these same people, these temple priests, have started the Roman Catholic Church, and there's a lot of evidence to show that these same people started Islam. So that would be the beast of the earth, the false prophet Muhammad. And as it's always been my hunch, that I believe that it was not the apostles that started the Roman Catholic Church. I think that they have definitely usurped that story of Peter being the rock that started the church. It was never part of the philosophy and teaching of the apostles, the philosophy of Jesus, which this dragon tried to stamp out in the early few hundred years after Jesus was resurrected. They brought these false religions of Roman Catholicism, Islam, and Judaism. The three frogs, the unclean spirits coming out of the mouth of the dragon, the beast of the sea, and the beast of the earth. The dragon, Judaism, the beast of the earth, Islam, and the beast of the sea, Roman Catholicism. And these frogs were a plague on the earth, just as the frogs were a plague on Egypt. And these frogs were false doctrine and false religion. They were unclean spirits. The dragon spewed forth its water, its false teaching, its false doctrine, its false spirituality, which is water, because Jesus says, I will give you the water of life. And this dragon spews forth water that the earth drinks up. And the people in the Islamic empires were forced to pay tax to the Caliph and forced to bow to the Exilarch. And if they did not convert to Islam, they were forced to pay a 95% tax. It made it impossible for them to live, and so they had to either convert and have the mark of the beast in their forehead or their thoughts, or in their hand, which is their action. So even if they didn't have the mark of the beast in their forehead or their belief system, their thoughts, they certainly did it in their actions via their hand, because they had to convert or basically die. And a lot of those deaths were at the hand of it, losing their hand or their head via a sword. We have heard of the persecution of the Christians by the Roman Empire, and later Rome incorporated Christianity, but it was a false sun god version of Christianity, which I will explain later in this video. It's via these Babylonian Exilarch Pharisees, Parsi or Persian Jews, that bring the Kabbalah and the Babylonian and Jerusalem Talmud, which is a false teaching, a false doctrine. It's a spirit like a frog coming out of the mouth of the dragon. And I believe that because they couldn't destroy the philosophy of Jesus, which is a philosophy of you will be kings and priests. We have a king over us in a heavenly kingdom, but he brought a philosophy and a teaching which gave us autonomy over our own lives. We did not need a corrupt priesthood that ran a temple that was based on merchantism. And Jesus turns over the tables in the temple. Those tables belonged to the high priest family. They were merchants, and they were rich, very rich merchants. The family of Caiaphas and Ananias owned those tables. And we can see that Christianity brought a freedom from the tyranny of the temple system, which the temple system hated because it made them obsolete. It cast them out of heaven, out of the kingdom of heaven, which was the temple system and Jerusalem, Israel. When Jesus died on the cross, the veil was rent and there was no more veil between the glory of God and between mankind. There was no need for a priesthood. We had Jesus. So that dragon was wroth with the woman, the true remnant of the house of Israel at that time, because the apostles came first for the remnant of the house of Israel, which is the 144,000. And once they were sealed in their forehead, they then came for the great multitude, which is everybody after that. The priesthood system tried to murder the apostles and the early Christians. And we see that with stoning, and even Paul the apostle, before his conversion, persecuted the saints. And then we see this system realize, well, if we can't beat them, we will join them. And what they did is they subverted the true philosophy of Jesus and the true religion of Christianity, and they created three false religions based on the Kabbalah, and they gave the people a false version of Jesus to worship, or a false prophet. So we have Muhammad, the false prophet. And as I've stated in other videos I've made on Buddhism, it's just a false representation of Jesus and his teaching. So we have a Hegelian system of right and left, or choose one or the other. Basically, if we choose one, the other must be wrong. So if one is wrong, therefore the other is right. And they have us arguing and fighting each other for thousands of years on this philosophy. But we are to take the narrow road, not the broad road. And the broad road is the Hegelian dialectic, and the narrow road is the philosophy of Jesus and the apostles. The Hegelian dialectic is the left and right paradigm, that somehow, because the left is so corrupt that it's wicked, that the right is the right choice to make, but it's not, because it's self-righteous and wicked as well. The Hegelian dialectic comes straight from the Kabbalistic Sephirot at having a male side and a female side. So the left is female, the right is male. And Hegel got the philosophy himself from his family, because his mother was of the rabbinical class, who passed the Kabbalistic teachings down through their generations. So I'm uploading this video and whatever videos I can here on YouTube, but in my country, we are being surrounded by the dragon and his Gog Magog minions, and we will soon have to give our identity to have a YouTube account. So I don't know how long I'm going to be on this platform, and I'll just keep trying to post as much as I can, but eventually I will probably not be allowed to post here. Give it to the content I upload, and I will be over on BitChute if you need to watch me there, until they make us give our identity and all of our information over just to have an account on BitChute. Australia is becoming a dictatorship. It's not becoming one, it is one. It would be nice to leave this country, but at the moment I don't have that option. So I do hope that this is a sign of the end, that this dragon is coming for us, for the saints in our camp, in our tents, in our temporary bodies on this earth. Or, like the people of Jerusalem, I will get a chance to leave this system and get out before its total destruction to a tyrannical government. Okay, so in the last video I posted on the Exilarchs, I played a video from Van Film's channel, and it was on the topic, was Muhammad a title for a Jewish exilarch? And I did show in that video genealogy, suggesting that Muhammad was related to these Exilarchs of Babylon. So Mel in this video suggested that the word Pharisee comes from the word Farsi or Parsi, which means Persian. So were the Pharisees Persian? And there's a lot of connection between the Persians and the Jewish exilarchs from Babylon. As I've stated and pointed to the book of Esther as proof of this, I have another video here that is from Mel's channel called Islamic Origins, and the video is on Elagabalus. And were Muhammad's embarrassing details based on Aragabalus, who was a Roman emperor? Now, there's some really interesting family connections between Aragabalus and the Herods. So, the more I find out about these exilarchs, the more they link up to the Revelation 12 dragon prophecy. And I believe in Revelation 12 that the dragon was Herod. It's obvious that the child was Jesus, the mother was Mary, and the dragon was Herod. Now, it's really important because throughout all of Revelation, we have this dragon that gives power to the beasts of the earth, which are in control of us. So the whore, which is Israel, or this Judaic Judahite system, the exiled tribe of Judah in Babylon, the king of those exiled was the Exilarch of the line of David. And she is what I believe the woman riding the beast. And the two beasts being the beast of the sea and the beast of the earth, which was a false prophet that looked like a lamb. It's my personal belief that that beast is the beast of Islam and the Arabic nations, and the false prophet is Muhammad. I believe that the beast of the sea is what most people say the beast of the sea is, which is Rome and Roman Catholicism. So if the dragon gives power to both of these beasts, who is the dragon? That's the most important question that nobody asks. And nobody asks this question because most people, most Christians today believe that Satan is the dragon and Satan is a mythical spiritual creature. I have pointed out that the dragon is not Satan, it is not a mythical creature or a spiritual creature. It is actually a family lineage, and Revelation 12 points to that family being the Herods. So, I have found historical evidence that King Herod's historian, the Greek historian, said that he was related to the tribe of David from Babylon. How is that possible? Herod's father was an Edomite, his mother was a Nabatean. It's my belief that the Nabatean city was set up as a trading city. It was a city where all of the merchants, so the Radhanite Jewish merchants from Babylon, so they would be exiled tribe of Judah who became wealthy on the Silk Spice Road merchant routes. They learnt to be bankers and merchants and lawyers and advisors to the kings of Babylon and Persia. When we look at the book of Esther, Esther married into the royalty of Persia, and throughout history, in secular history, we see that there is a big alliance between these particular Judahite exilarchs that were marrying and in alliance with the Persian rulers and Arabic rulers of that time. There are a lot of connections to Petra and Nabatea. So Dan Gibson has proven that Petra was the original home of the Kaaba stone and Mecca, and that it was later moved to Yemen or Saudi Arabia, in the location that we know of today as Mecca. There's also evidence to show that the Qibla faced Petra, but not only that, there's also theories that the Qibla actually faced where the Jewish Exilarch was located at the time, in the early time period before around 600-700, when all of this Islamic religion was orchestrated, basically. If this is true, then the Quran and all of the Islamic faith was created by a Pharisaical priesthood from Babylon that were Jewish exilarchs. So what's interesting is when we go to Jeremiah 51, it has the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, being referred to as a dragon. So verse 34, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me, he hath crushed me, he hath made me an empty vessel, he hath swallowed me up like a dragon, he hath filled his belly with my delicates, he hath cast me out. Therefore thus saith the Lord, behold, I will plead thy cause, and take vengeance for thee. I will dry up her sea, and make her springs dry. This is kind of interesting because, we have this beast of the earth from the Babylonian Arabic world, and the beast of the sea, which is from the Western European side of the world. According to Jerusalem, we have east and west. And Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, and astonishment, and a hissing without an inhabitant. And I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Malachi 1:3. Now, if it's saying that the dragons are from Babylon, basically that Babylon was left to the dragons, that the dragons inherit the region or the kingdom of Esau, and Esau's territory went to the Nabateans. So the Nabateans therefore would be these people from Babylon or Iraq, the Nabateans of Iraq. Ezekiel 29 verse 3. In the King James Version, speak and say, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and the great dragon that lieth in the midst of the rivers, which hath said, my river is mine own, and I have made it for myself. So who inherited the kingdom of Egypt? In the long run, it was the Greeks, the Ptolemies, and Cleopatra, the queen, married into the Roman royalty, Caesar and Mark Antony. And so the Romans inherited the Egyptian mystery religion and the Egyptian portion or the inheritance. So we have this dragon of the waters and the rivers, and we have this dragon of the wilderness where the sea and the rivers have dried up. And basically what I'm describing here is a family of royalty and aristocracy that has intermarried. We look at genealogy from all of these families, and yes, they have all intermarried. They all claim descendants going back to Nimrod. But specifically, all of these royal houses all wanted to tie themselves to being descendants of Alexander the Great, but definitely relations to the pharaohs of Egypt, the kings of Babylon, and the Herods specifically married into both of these families also. There's three parts of the kingdom of heaven. In Isaiah, we see that Egypt and Assyria are already cast out of that kingdom. Both of these people that inherited these kingdoms are referred to here as dragons, and the last third, which was the king of Israel or the southern kingdom of Israel, the Herods, is in Revelation referred to as a dragon in Revelation 12. We can see that this is a genealogy that has intermarried, and the last third of heaven is cast out at the time of 70 AD. This is who the dragon is. It's an intermarried aristocracy that comes through these three kingdoms. Each of these beasts represents one of these kingdoms or one of these thirds, I believe, and the dragon rules them all. This family lineage that has come through Egypt, Babylon, Persia, and Israel. The merchants of the earth are the kings and the Exilarch people of Judah, who are hand in glove with the kings of Persia and Babylon. You know, the story of Esther shows this. We see Daniel again in Persia, and these Farsis coming from southern Iran. In the Persian Empire, it's a Farsi is a Persian dialect. The empire of Babylon was taken over by the Persians, and these merchants on the Silk and Spice Road started with the tribe of David in Babylon, the Radhanite Jews. In this video by Mal, were Muhammad's embarrassing details borrowed from Elagabalus, part 1. It's talking about the Emperor Elagabalus and his similarities to the story of Muhammad. Now, I've gone into the pedigree of Elagabalus, and all of this links back to Nabatea and the Herods. But not only that, to the Exilarch Bustani ben Hananiah. So here we have is Dundad Sassanid princess of Persia, and she was born in 640 AD. She was the wife that was given to Bustani ben Hananiah the Exilarch. Guriah Exilarch, the Davidic dynasty, was an alternative husband. So she was a Sassanid, Arabic, or Persian princess. Now, if we go back in her history, we have her mother. I'll just keep going back here. Mariam of Byzantioi, Constantina. I believe this is like relations of Constantine the Great. Anastasia. Anicia, which is said to be a family line of the Pierleoni family of Rome. And Anicia was the wife of Magnus, Leontius, Bishop of Lyon. So we go back to this region of Lyon and bishops of Lyon. Rusticus, Saint Bishop of Lyon. Aquilin, Bishop of Lyon. Rusticus of Lyon. Arthemia of Treves. And I'll just keep going back in their family line from children, their children. Urania of Chalcis. Julius Aurelius, rival emperor of Rome. Uranius Antonius. So we have these priest kings of Emesa. Gaius Julius Sulpicius. Now we'll just keep going back here. The priest kings of Emesa. Gaius Julius Alexio, priest king of Emesa. Gaius Julius Shaemus, priest king of Emesa. Eutape, priestess queen of Emesa. Aristobulus II, priest king of Emesa. And when we get to Aristobulus II, he was the son of Aristobulus I, and his father was Herod I, king of Judea. So we have a direct link here to King Herod and the Herodians. But when we go back to Aristobulus II, priest king of Emesa, his wife was Bernice II of Costobarus, and her mother was Salome of Judea, who was Herod's sister, Salome of Idumea. So Salome was Herod's sister. Their mother was Cypros of Nabatea, her son King Herod I, father Antipater the Idumean. So Costobarus, governor of Idumea and Gaza. Elagabalus was a sun god, an Arab Roman sun god initially venerated in Emesa, modern-day Syria. Although there were many variations of his name, the god was consistently referred to as Elagabalus in Roman coins and inscriptions from AD 218 on, during the reign of Emperor Elagabalus. Elagabalus was initially venerated at Emesa in Syria, where the Arab Emesian dynasty acted as its priest. The name is Latinized from the Arabic La al-Jabal, the Emesian manifestation of the deity, which is Arabic for God of the mountain. Elagabalus was the religious lord or Baal of Emesa. The deity successfully preserved Arab characteristics both in his name and representations. The cult of the deity spread to other parts of the Roman Empire in the 2nd century, where he would be revered as Elagabalus by the Greeks and Elagabalus by the Romans. For example, a dedication has been found as far away as Woerden in the modern-day Netherlands. So in Rome, the cult stone, or Beatil, was taken to Rome by the Emperor Elagabalus. So Marcus Aurelius Antonius, better known as the posthumous nickname Elagabalus and Heliogabalus, who before his ascension was the hereditary high priest at Emesa and commonly called Elagabalus after the deity. The Syrian deity was assimilated with the Roman sun god known as Sol and became known as Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun among the Romans. Hello, isn't this what the Roman Catholic Church Beast of the Sea is based on? So not only have these links to these Exilarchs, the Talmudic Kabbalistic Exilarchs in Babylon started the fake religion of Islam, have they also started the fake religion of Roman Catholicism with the Sol Invictus, official sun god of the late Roman Empire and a later aspect of the replacement for the old Latin god Sol? The Emperor Aurelian revived this cult in 274 AD and prompted Sol Invictus as the chief god of the empire. We know that the Roman Catholic system is Kabbalistic, and here we have these direct links to Nabatea, to the Herods, to the same people who created Islam, to Muhammad, Pharisaical exilarchs from Babylon. Talmudus. A temple called Elagabalium was built on the east face of the Palatine Hill to house the holy stone of the Emesa temple, a black conical meteorite. Herodian writes of the stone, "This stone is worshipped as though it were sent from heaven. On it there are some small projecting pieces and markings that are pointed out, which the people would like to believe are a rough picture of the sun, because this is how they see them." Herodian also related that Elagabalus forced senators to watch while he danced around his deity's altar to the sound of drums and cymbals, and at each summer solstice celebrated a great festival popular with the masses because of food distributions, during which he placed the holy stone on a chariot adorned with gold and jewels, which he paraded through the city. Is this the Kaaba stone? Is this the same stone that they worship in Mecca? Now, it says here, a 6-horse chariot carried the divinity, the horse huge and flawless, white, with expensive gold fittings and rich ornaments. No one held the reins and no one rode in the chariot. The vehicle was escorted as if the god himself were the charioteer. Elagabalus ran backwards in front of the chariot, facing the god and holding the horse's reins, he made the whole journey in the reverse fashion, looking up to the face of his god. According to Cassius Dio, the emperor also tried to bring about a union of Roman and Syrian religion under the supremacy of his deity, which he placed even above Jupiter, and to which he assigned either Astarte, Minerva, or Urania, or some combination of the three as wife. The most sacred relics from the Roman religion were transferred from their respective shrines to Elagabalum, including the emblem of the Great Mother, the fire of Vesta, and Palladium, at the shields of the Salii, and all that the Romans held sacred. He reportedly also declared that Jews, Samaritans, and Christians must transfer their rites to this temple so that it might include the mysteries of every form of worship. According to Herodian, after the emperor was killed in 222, his religious edicts were reversed and the cult of Elagabalus returned to Emesa. Did it really? The history of the Catholic Church is the formation, events, and historical development of the Catholic Church through time. According to the tradition of the Catholic Church, it started from the day of Pentecost at the upper room of Jerusalem. I call bollocks on this one because Roman Catholicism is Kabbalistic. It has nothing to do with Jesus and the apostles. The Catholic tradition considers that the Church is a continuation of the early Christian community. Now, I'm going to do a later video on this that it says that the church was established on St. Peter, or the rock, which means Caiaphas, Peter, Caiaphas. I believe it's related to the Pharisaical priesthood of the temple and Caiaphas of the temple. And there's much connection between Caiaphas and the family of the Alabrach of Alexandria and the Herods. And I will do an in-depth investigation into this later on. But here it says Christianity spread throughout the early Roman Empire with persecutions due to conflicts with the polytheist state religion. So this is Christianity as in the true Christianity of the apostles. In 313, the persecutions were lessened by the Edict of Milan with the legalization of Christianity by the Emperor Constantine. So here we have where the Roman Catholicism is coming into the global system. In 380, under Emperor Theodosius, Christianity became the state religion of the Roman Empire. Now we know that by this time, by 313 to 380, we have the Roman Catholic version of sun god worship being the main religion of Rome. So what year did Elagabalus rule? It was 222. So this is not long after this period where he has brought in the sole Invictus religion of the priesthood of Emesa. So Elagabalus, or Marcus Aurelius Antonius, born Sextus Varius Avitus Bassianus, better known by his posthumous nickname Elagabalus. To prove my point, here is the lineage of Elagabalus, Emperor of Rome. And we have Julia Seamus Bassinia. And we go back here to all of these people I was just reading out. Gaius Julius Alexio, priest king of Emesa, going back. Mother's side, Julia Seamus Bassina. So going back to the same priest kings of Emesa. These are all Herod-linked family lineages. Gaius Julius Seamus, priest king of Emesa. And here we have the Herod king line here on the mother's side. Cyprus of Nabatea, going back to these Arabs, or what I think are Persian, Exilarch Jews of Judea, from the merchants. Nabatea being a merchant city. It's where all of the merchants would come and water their animals along the trading routes that once belonged to the Edomites. And we have these Arabic lines here, but I mean, what does Arab mean? It just means mixed, doesn't it? And, could be related to the Ishmaelites, but also, we have Shemites coming from Babylon and linking up to the Chaldeans who were Semites. We don't know who all of these other lineages are. They could be related to Herod's also through Costobarus and Salome, who was Herod's sister. So we don't know if these other people are related to them, but I think that this Emessin royal family are definitely related to what may be Exilarchs. Definitely they are related to the Herods. So Gaius Julius Shamus, priest king of Emesa on his mother's side. We have Nabatean Herod lines here on his father's side. I think I'm saying this name wrong. It could be Sohamus, priest king of Emesa. We have Maccabees, Sampsigeratnus, priest king of Emesa, and again mother's side here, Davidic prince line. So are these from the Babylonian Davidic family of the Exilarchs? King of Judea, Aristobulus II. So this is Davidic priest lines here. So we have this Emessin priests here from these Aramean, these lines that go back to the Arabs, but we don't know if they're actually descendants of King David via Babylon. So yeah, we have these Herod lineages and Nabatean lineages and these Arabic Davidic lineages leaking into these priest kings of Emesa who are the worshippers of Sol Invictus. So the Emessene dynasty, also called the Sampsigeramides of the house of Sampsigeramus, were a Roman client dynasty of Syrian priest kings known to have ruled by 46 BC from Arethusa and later from Emesa, Syria until between 72 and 78, 79, or at the latest the region of Emperor Antonius Pius. Iamblichus, the famous Neoplatonist philosopher of the 3rd century, was one of their descendants, as was Empress Julia Domna, matriarch of the Severan dynasty. So Julia was Roman empress from 193 to 211 as the wife of Emperor Septimus Severus. She was the first empress of the Severan dynasty. Domna was born in Emesa in Roman Syria to an Arab family of priests and of the deity Elagabalus. The most modern sources declare the family to be of Arab origin. So, were they from these Nabatean, Idumean, Edomite backgrounds? Some members of the family, such as Julius Bassianus, father of Julia Domna, are described in Roman sources as a priest of the sun, whom the Phoenicians from whom he sprang call Elagabalus. Since Emesa was well outside the traditional and geographical boundaries of Phoenicia, some modern historians consider the use of Phoenician in these sources as a pseudo-ethnic label, one that arose from the political creation of Syria Phoenice by Septimus Severus in 194. Some authors believe that King Sampsigeramus and Iamblichus had Aramaic names, while other historians believe their names are Arabic. The name Sampsigeramus is derived from Shams, meaning sun, while Geram is related to the Arabic root Kurum, meaning to venerate. Other kings such as Azius and Sohamus had clearly Arabic names. Iamblichus was referred to as Exilarch of the Arabs by Cicero and king of an Arabian tribe by Cassius Dio. It is said that Emesa and the surrounding had a strong presence of Arabic-speaking people at the time, although the ancient name of the city appears to be Aramaic. In Emesa, Aramaic and Greek were commonly spoken languages, and during the Roman Empire, Latin was probably commonly spoken in the city. So the religion was recorded by Herodian to have been, by the 3rd century, the center of worship of the ancient pagan god Elagabalus, the original name of which is posited to have been Al-Gabal. Allah Gabal. So Allah, as in Islam, Allah, or Ilah Gabal. So basically we're talking about Allah here, Arabic meaning God of the mountain. Emesa, the religious lord, or Baal, was the cult of Elagabalus. This cult is assumed to have existed already at the time when the dynasty was still ruling. It is believed as priest kings. Although there might have been originally two separate cults, the deity Elagabalus successfully preserved Arab characteristics both in his name and in his representations. Sampsiceramus was the founding priest king of Emesene dynasty who lived in the 1st century BC and was a tribal chieftain or Phylarch. The ancestor of Sampsiceramus I were Arabs who had traveled the Syrian terrain before deciding to settle in the Orontes Valley, the south of the Apamena region. Sampsiceramus I, his family and his ancestors in Syria had lived under the Greek rule of the Seleucid Empire. So Iamblichus I was one of the phylarchs or petty princes of the Arab tribe of the Emesines in Emesa. He was son of Sampsiceramus I and is first mentioned by Marcus Tullius Cicero in a dispatch which he sent from Rome to Cilicia in 51 BC. So in 48 BC, Iamblichus I, with Antipater the Idumean, Ptolemy, and other allies of the Romans, joined the campaign of Mithridates II in Egypt to support Julius Caesar, who was besieged in Alexandria. In the mid-40s BC, he supported the rebellion of Quintius Caecilius Bassus. So here's this Bassus name. You know, they've all sort of intermarried here. Now, I'm just wondering if Iamblichus is actually some kind of relative of Antipater the Idumean, or, being Arabic, the Nabateans were considered Arabs. So was he a descendant of these Nabateans? And were they actually descendants of these Exilarch merchants or Radhanite merchants of the Silk and Spice Road, setting up another merchant city in Syria? I find it really interesting that these Emesines, so Emesene dynasty, also called the Sampsigeramides, sounds a lot like the Essenes. And did the Essenes spring from the Emesene dynasty? And are they related to these Exilarchs? So when we look at the Essenes here, we have the Essenes were a mystic Jewish community during the Second Temple period that flourished from the 2nd century BCE to the 1st century. The Essene movement likely originated as a distinct group among Jews during Jonathan Appas' time, driven by disputes over Jewish law and the belief that Jonathan's high priesthood was illegitimate. Most scholars think that the Essenes seceded from the Zadokite priests. They attributed their interpretation of the Torah to their early leader, the teacher of righteousness, possibly a legitimate high priest embracing a conservative approach to Jewish law. They observed a strict hierarchy favoring priests, the sons of Zadok, over lay people, emphasized ritual purity, and held a dualistic worldview. Now, this is really interesting because we know that dualism comes from Zoroastrianism, and dualism is not Hebrew, or it's it's where the whole concept of Satan comes in, and hell, and good against evil, as in the sense that there is two opposing kingdoms in the spiritual realm. Dualism is, or dualistic cosmology, is the moral or belief that two fundamental concepts exist, which often oppose each other. It is an umbrella term that covers a diversity of views from various religions, including both traditional religions and scriptural religion. And Zoroastrianism, or Mazdaism, is one of the world's oldest continuously practiced religions based on the teachings of Iranian-speaking prophet Zoroaster. It is a dualistic cosmology of good and evil, and an eschatology which predicts the ultimate conquest of evil by good. Now, that all sounds well and good, but we are, as people, dualistic because we ate of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So we know good and evil, but the whole mythology around Satan and God in a dualistic fight in the spiritual realm is mythology. It's not scriptural. There is no division in the kingdom of God. There is no evil realm where Satan lurks and plots against humanity. The dualism, or the Satan, is our adversary, and our adversary is our own self most of the time. It's the evil within us, the evil that was within Adam because he ate this fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which was dualistic. And it's the basis of Gnosticism, so Manichaeism, as a major religion founded in the 3rd century AD by the Parthian prophet Mani in the Sasanian Empire. Manichaeism taught an elaborate dualistic cosmology describing the struggle between a good spiritual world of light and an evil material world of darkness. Through an ongoing process that takes place in human history, light is gradually removed from the world of matter and returned to the world of light, whence it came. Its beliefs were based on local Mesopotamian religious movement and Gnosticism. So this is Kabbalism. So the whole idea of the shattering of the Sephirot. We'll go to the Chabad webpage for understanding this and why they need Tikkun Olam, or why they need Noahide laws to get rid of us Goy, who are making the world evil and stopping them from inheriting the earth. The shattering of the vessels in Hebrew of the world of Tohu is the key concept in explaining the basic problem of diverseness and multiplicity in creation, as well as the origin of evil, and is a central component in the Arizal's system of Kabbalah, where it receives a full exposition. The concept of Shevarat HaKalim is linked together with the mystical account of the 8 kings who reigned in the land of Edom before any king ruled over the Israelites in Genesis 36, and in the Midrashic account of the building and destruction of the primordial worlds. As will be explained below, although the idea of Shevarat HaKalim is also found in several sections of the Zohar, the concept and its ramifications are very difficult to understand there without the elucidation of the entire subject in the writings of Rabbi Yitzhak Luria. For this reason, even here, many readers will find the roll over glossary feature essential for comprehending this important piece. The Arizal explains that when it arose in the divine will to create the finite world, the first step was to withdraw or conceal the infinite, or Ein Sof, in the process known as the first constriction, or Tzimtzum Harishon. The first world plane of existence that came into being after the Tzimtzum is called Adam Kadmon. So this is the androgyne Adam. But even though Adam Kadmon is a post Sim's world, it is still a meta world, so to speak, undefined, unified, and transcending time, comprising a single transcendent primordial thought. Light emitted from the eyes of Adam Kadmon signifies a descent from an internal essential level to an external sensory level. So the existence of vessels for the lights that issued forth from Adam Kadmon begins only in the world of Akudim, in which there is but one general vessel for all the 10 lights, and below, subsequently, the world of Nikudim, another name for Tohu, was emanated, in which 10 vessels were formed for the 10 lights. All of them were the aspects of Keter, of the 10 Sephirot, so that there were 10 lights of Keter of the 10 Sephirot. Each of these 10 Keter lights had an individual vessel. The remaining 9 parts of the lights, i.e. Kokma, Bina, Chesed, in each of these Sephirot were incorporated within the Keter light of each of the Sephirot. For this reason, they are referred to as 10 Nekudot, meaning individual points of light, rather than as 10 complete Sephirot. Now these 10 Sephirot were emanated in such a way that they were situated one above the other. So we know that what the Sephirot is, it's the Kabbalah tree of life, and this is the whole theory due to the intensity and exclusivity of the lights and the inability of the vessels to contain them. The vessels of the lower Sephirot of Tohu shattered, and the lights they contained remain above. The fragments of these vessels then fell to the lower levels, becoming absorbed into the various worlds below the world of Tohu. So remember that these people believe that they are the top 3 Sephirot. So they contain the light of the world, and the rest of us are obviously shattered, and we kind of evil vessels that are stopping them from inheriting the earth. So the 3 uppermost vessels had the ability to contain the lights designated for them and did not die. That is so blasphemous. So basically they're saying Adam was shattered, the light that was Adam, that was the 10 Sephirot, are shattered, but those top 3 did not die. It says that when Adam sinned, mankind died, and that includes all mankind, not any specific genetic group. Since the lights of these 10 Nekudot were so intense and powerful, the vessels did not have the power to contain them, and the vessels died, meaning they descended below to the level that is now called the world of Furia. That's you and me, everyone who is not part of this tribe. We are these dead vessels, and we stopped them from inheriting the earth. This descent was their demise, but this was only as regards the 7 lower Nekudot, whereas the 3 uppermost vessels had the ability to contain the lights designated for them and did not die. The vessels of the 7 lower descended to the world of Biria, but the lights remain above exposed without vessels. So I won't go on here, but basically their whole concept of Tikkun Olam, or heal the world, is to somehow get rid of us evil vessels and make this light contained again. I mean, it's completely insane, this whole philosophy, not biblical, has nothing to do with the Bible. So we can see that dualism is a Kabbalistic teaching that comes from Zoroastrianism and back further through the Persian and Babylonian empires. So I find it really interesting that the Essenes here are dualistic and obviously believe this story. And they are the sons of Zadok, and the sons of Zadok is a lineage of priests, Kohanim. So the Cohens, descended from Zadok, that is described in the prophecies of Ezekiel. Zadok himself was first high priest in Solomon's temple. His descendants were high priests in that temple until its destruction in 587 BC. Ezekiel's prophecy came several decades after the destruction and describes the Zadokite family loyalty to God while the rest of the nation rebelled against God. And so the Zadokite priesthood, biblically recorded to be a descendant of Eleazar, the son of Aaron. He was the high priest of Israel during the reign of David and Solomon. So is this why this whole concept of the Sephiroth and the Temple of David is the foundation of Freemasonry, which goes back to the Kabbalistic school of the Exilarch in France and the Knights Templars? The priesthood of Aaron was corrupt. It was corrupt from the beginning. I mean, Moses is up the mountain and Aaron's down in the valley making a golden calf for the people of Israel to worship. And Jesus was not of the priesthood of Zadok or the Kohanim. He was of the priesthood of Melchizedek. And Melchizedek was a much older priesthood that went right back to Abraham, way before Moses and Aaron. And we are told that the priesthood of Aaron would not be inheriting that kingdom. So we have of the lineage of David, but not the lineage of Levi or Aaron. So Jesus is high priest and king of the order of Melchizedek, not of the order of Zadok. Now, what's really interesting here too is, according to Jewish writers Josephus and Philo, the Essenes numbered around 4,000 and resided in various settlements throughout Judea. Conversely, Roman writer Pliny the Elder positioned them somewhere above En Gedi, on the west side of the Dead Sea. Pliny relates in a few lines that the Essenes possess no money, had existed for thousands of generations, and that their priestly class did not marry. So Josephus gave a detailed account of the Essenes in the Jewish War, with a shorter description in Antiquities of the Jews. Claiming first-hand knowledge, he listed the Essenioi as one of the three sects of Jewish philosophy alongside the Pharisees and Sadducees. He relates the same information concerning piety, celibacy, the absence of personal property and of money, the belief in communality, and commitment to a strict observance of Sabbath. He further adds that the Essenes ritually immersed in water every morning, a practice similar to the use of mikvah for daily immersion found among some contemporary Hasidism. Now, excluding that, these Essenes actually sound very Roman Catholic. And I'm just curious because, we have the Essenes and the Emesene. So the Emesene dynasty, are they the same people? So this is the Emesene dynasty in the area of modern-day Syria. So if we look at this map here, Western Dead Sea is around Bethlehem, which is up in modern-day Syria today, up that region. I mean, it's not exactly there, but it's not far from there, like a couple of days walk, maybe a day, perhaps. We know that the Sanhedrin moved to Syria up around where modern-day Syria is today, after the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD. So who was Melchizedek? Melchizedek was the king of Salem, high priest of El-Elyon, often translated as God of the Most High. He is first mentioned in Genesis, where he brings out bread and wine and blesses Abraham. Some people have actually said that Melchizedek may have been Shem. And, Shem came out of the flood So he would have brought this priesthood from before the flood, and just like Noah, he was the blessed son of Noah, and he may have lived for a really long time because he was born before the flood, opposed to men who were born after the flood and whose lifespan was significantly shorter. It says Melchizedek as the king of righteousness. So in the Hasmonean dynasty, the Babylonian Talmud recounts the Hasmonean rulers used to identify themselves as high priests of El Elyon. When the Hasmonean kingdom became strong and defeated the Greeks, they instituted that people should mention the name of heaven even in their legal documents. And therefore they would write, in the year such and such of Johanan the high priest of the God Most High. Scholars have observed that the Hasmoneans used Melchizedek's example of monarch priest to justify occupying both offices. So, there's a good chance that Melchizedek was Shem, because he is both the king of Salem and the high priest of Salem. Whereas after the Aaronic priesthood, which is this Zadok priesthood, it says here, with respect to Genesis 14:20, Hebrews chapter 7 verses 2 and 4 in the New Testament states that the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of the spoil to Melchizedek. Psalms 110:4 is cited in the New Testament letter to the Hebrews as an indicator that Jesus, regarded in the letter as the Messiah, had a right to a priesthood predating the Jewish Aaronic priesthood. And it says here that a majority of Chazalic literature attributes the primary character of the Psalm of King David, who was a righteous king of Jerusalem and, like Melchizedek, had certain priest-like responsibilities, while the Babylonian Talmud understands the chapter as referring to Abraham, who was victorious in battling to save his nephew Lot and merited priesthood. The Zohar defines the noted Melchizedek as referring to Aaron and the Kohanim Gadol high priest. So here we have Jesus, the direct lineage of King David, saying he is the priesthood, the high king and the priest of Melchizedek. And then we have this Babylonian Exilarch priesthood of Babylon, with the Pharisees were irate because Jesus said that he's the Messiah, he's the king and high priest that they were waiting for. And this Kohanim priesthood of Aaron was not happy about it. Now, I actually have a theory about the priesthood of Melchizedek, and I'm going to do a separate video on this in regards to why I believe Jesus chose to be of this priesthood. So the Essenes saw themselves as like the priesthood of the Roman Catholic Church. They were celibate priests of a dualistic, Kabbalistic, Babylonian-style religion, and they were the sons of Zadok, or the descendants of the priesthood of Aaron. So the symbol of Gnosticism is the Yaldabaoth, and this symbol is a lion-headed serpent with a sun corona around its head. It's said here on Wikipedia, is a malevolent god and demiurge, creator of the material world, according to various Gnostic sects. And those Gnostic sects are a collection of religious and philosophical ideas and systems that coalesced in the late 1st century AD among early Christian sects and the sects of other religions. So this is a Kabbalistic, Gnostic, Persian version of Christianity, which we know we have in the Roman Catholic Church. Babylonian mystery religion, represented sometimes as the theomorphic lion-headed serpent, he is identified as a false god who keeps souls trapped in physical bodies, imprisoned in the material universe. The etymology of the name Yaldabaoth has been subject to many speculative theories. The first etymology was advanced in 1575 by Francois Ferdinand, supposedly translating it from Hebrew to mean Latin, a patribus genitus, the child of fathers. A theory proposed by Jacques Matter in 1888 identified the name descending through, which means Yelda, child, and from Hebrew romanized Baha, a supposed plural form of Hebrew, emptiness, darkness, matter. However, interpreted it to mean chaos, thus translating Yelda Baoth as child of darkness and element of chaos. I have my own personal view of this symbol, and considering that this symbol first was seen around the first century, this symbol was first used by the Gnostics. I believe that this symbol actually represents Israel. So we have the Lion of Judah as the head, and we have the serpent of Dan as the rest of the body. And I believe that this is the Gnostic or Kabbalistic version of Israel. And if this person's etymology is true, that it means child of chaos, that this particular symbol may represent the Antichrist or the promised child of the seed of the woman or the descendant of the line or throne of David, who in a Gnostic view would be the Exilarch, so the Antichrist or the antithesis of the real inheritor of the kingdom of Israel being Jesus. The opposite of him is another descendant of the throne of David, and that is the Exilarch. Now, it does say here also that the first use of Yaldabaoth symbol can be tracked back to Gnostic texts, particularly in the Apocryphon of John and the Pistis Sophia. Yaldabaoth is depicted as a lion-faced serpent, symbolizing ignorance and the material realm's limitations. Initially, Yaldabaoth represented the Roman emperors. So, how does it represent the Roman emperors, and are those Roman emperors these sons of the Emesene king priests, the sun worshippers? Now, Constantine, who brought sun worship and Christianity together, is a descendant of these priest kings. He is also related to Emperor Vespasian, who goes back to the Herod kings of Chalcis or Chalcis, the same Iamblichus of Chalcis. What's really fascinating is when we have a look at the interpretation of what Iamblichus, I don't know if I'm saying that right, actually did. It says he was born in Chalcis, I don't know how to pronounce that either, in North Syria, an intellectually lively city in prosperous region which had been at peace for over 200 years. He became a student of Porphyry, an important Neoplatonic philosopher, and probably studied with him in Rome or Sicily. Therefore, in his philosophy, Iamblichus tried to harmonize the rational discourse of classical Greek philosophy with the ancient religious practices of Egypt, Assyria, and Chaldea. Hello, is this not Isaiah? Egypt, 1/3, Assyria, another third, Chaldea, which is a Semitic people, the 3/3 of heaven. Iamblichus wrote a great deal, but much of it has been lost. He also established the definitive Neoplatonic curriculum, which was followed for the next 2 centuries. Neoplatonic theologians had also applied allegorical methods to Jewish and Christian scriptures. But Iamblichus' systematic formulation laid the foundation for biblical exegesis by theologians and also influenced others, such as Dante. Dante writing Dante's Inferno, which has a Roman Catholic demiurge Babylonian mystery religion version of hell, which is not biblical. Iamblichus' view contrasts with that of the Gnostics and of some other Neoplatonists. Iamblichus' philosophy and theurgy were very influential on later Neoplatonists such as Proclus. It don't we see in the 1600s of these Neoplatonists trying to interpret Christianity through Plato, the philosophy of Plato. So here is this person linked to the priest kings of Emesa and the Herods, and he is establishing a foundation of allegorical methods to Jewish and Christian scriptures. It says here in Wikipedia, Gnosticism originated during the late 1st century CE in non-rabbinical Jewish and early Christian sects. In the formation of Christianity, various sectarian groups, labeled Gnostics by their opponents, emphasized spiritual knowledge or gnosis of the divine spark within over faith, pistis, in the teachings and traditions of the various communities of Christians. Gnosticism presents a distinction between the highest unknowable God and the demiurge. So here we have Kabbalism, Babylonian mystery religion, and Persian Zoroastrianism. Creator of the material universe. Gnostics consider the most essential part of the process of salvation to be this personal knowledge, in contrast to faith as an outlook in their world view, along with faith in the ecclesiastical authority. So, did the Gnostics start the Roman Catholic Church? Well, we know that Roman Catholicism is Mystery Babylon religion. Were the Gnostics related to these priest kings of Emesa? And were they related to the Pharisees of the Persian and Arabic Empire of Shams? So, according to the Gnostics, Yaldabaoth is the son of Sophia, the personification of wisdom according to Gnosticism. Now, that is the Shekinah glory. We know this is a Kabbalistic teaching, not a biblical teaching. In the act of creation, however, Yaldabaoth emptied himself of his supreme power. When Yaldabaoth breathed the soul into the first man, Adam, Sophia instilled in him the divine spark of the spirit. And so we can see how this is not biblical. Now, I find it funny how the people that created this Kabbalistic religion or follow this Kabbalistic religion believe in controlling the material in the form of controlling us. So, like the Matrix, through our thoughts and actions, by controlling our thoughts, and I guess you would say brainwashing us into having this mark of the beast in our foreheads and thinking the way the beast wants us to, we create their material universe through our actions for them. And here it says that Yaldabaoth is regarded as the malevolent demiurge and false god of the Old Testament, who generated the material universe and keeps the souls trapped in physical bodies, imprisoned in the world full of pain and suffering that he created. Now, it's not God who created our global government and philosophy. It's man who created that. So God created the physical world that we live in, but we create the philosophy and the governments and the systems that we live in. The people that control this world understand this concept of manifesting their reality by using us to physically create these systems for them. And they consider themselves to be gods. In Ephesians verse 2, it says, As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins, in which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the Spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our flesh and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by nature deserving of wrath. But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive by Christ when we were dead in transgression. So what's really interesting is when we go back to the Emessene dynasty, we have this Herod-style Arabic priesthood that worships the sun or the god of the mountain. Is that a kind of a twisting of the idea of the mountain of Mount Sinai when the priesthood was established in Mount Sinai? Are they the gods of this particular mountain? Is that what they're saying? Maybe. And maybe I'm just saying perhaps that these Emissenes were descendants of these same people. This religion having been twisted into, when they were in Persia, into the Zoroastrian style religion of worshipping the sun or the fire. Traditionally, Zoroastrians worship individually at home or in the open, facing a source of light. Zoroastrian scriptures do not prescribe worshipping in a temple and make no mention of Zoroastrian places of worship. Now, what's interesting is in Islam, or the beast of the earth, they bow to the sun. And wasn't it those in the temple that were bowing to pray towards the sun or towards the east? This is in Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 16. And he brought me to the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs towards the temple of the Lord, and their faces towards the east, and they worshipped the sun towards the east. Then he said unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here? For they have filled the land with violence, and they have returned to provoke me to anger. And lo, they put the branch to their nose. Therefore will I also deal in fury. Mine eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity. And though they cry in mine ears with a loud voice, yet will I not hear them. So here we have the priesthood of Aaron in the temple, bowing to the east, which is the rising sun. And this is what we have in Islam, where they wake up and they bow towards the sun at sunrise. Here we have an Orthodox web page, and it's saying why we pray facing east. Facing east is an ancient tradition grounded in sure knowledge about the second coming, first told us by the Lord and then repeated by an angel after the disciples had just seen the Lord ascend into heaven. For as the lightning comes from the east and shines as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man. Well, it doesn't say pray to the east. Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus which is taken from you into heaven shall also come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. And we believe that our Lord ascended on the Mount of Olives, and when he comes back, he will come on a cloud from the east. Therefore, we face east when we pray. Now, this does not say that he's coming from the east in the Bible. It's just saying that, like the lightning from the east to the west. It doesn't say pray to the east. And this is really a fine line between praying to, like the priest of the temple, facing east. This is a really fine line of being blasphemous, basically, like these particular priests that are said to be an abomination. Turn again and you will see greater abominations that they are doing. Women crying for Tammuz, priests in the temple praying to the east. Persian Zoroastrian worship in the temple. So this kind of reminds me of Exodus 3, where Moses meets the angel in the burning bush. It says, and the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. So this was not God himself. It was actually a messenger or angel of God that appeared in the bush as a flame that did not consume. So they worshipped the light. So not necessarily fire, but the light, the eternal flame. Zoroastrians turned towards a flame, a tash, a source of light while praying. At the heart of a Zoroastrian place of worship burns a fire, and where possible, the fire burns continuously, symbolizing an eternal flame. So, temporal fire represents the spiritual flame, Minu Athra, within us, and the ethical values of Asha. Mithra, Mithrism, covenant of light. Mithra is an ancient Iranian deity of covenants, light, oaths, justice, the sun, contracts, and friendship. In addition to being the deity of contracts, Mithra is also a judicial figure and all-seeing protector of truth. Basically, Mithrism, which is the Phrygian hat that we have in Venice, and the Phrygian hat of the French Revolution, is Mithrism, sun worship. So the god of the mountain, which is the god of Elagabalus. Zion, sacred mountain in ancient Jerusalem. Zion is a sacred hill situated in ancient Jerusalem. A Jebusite fortress was located on the hill when King David captured the city in the 10th century. So what is Mount Zion and why is it so important? At the highest point in Jerusalem, just outside the walls of the old city, lies modern Mount Zion. Every year, hundreds of thousands of tourists flock to the ancient locale to see representations of biblical sites like the tomb of David, the Last Supper room, and the burial place of Mary. So David captures the fortress in 2 Samuel. Upon this hilly range of sacred land, scripture shows a rich heritage of God's redemptive work even before the name Zion surfaced. There, Abraham agreed to do the unthinkable. He bound his only son and prepared to sacrifice him, having faith that God would instead provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. And he did in the way of Jesus. On this mountain, Jacob had his dream that allowed him to climb to heaven. David purchased the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite and sacrificed oxen to atone for his sin on this mountain. And it's there that Solomon built the magnificent temple of the Lord in 2 Chronicles 3:1. Now, who's on the Temple Mount now? It's the Dome of the Rock. It's Islamic Exilarch religion temple on this mountain, Mount Zion. Zionism adapted the Star of David as its symbol in 1897. No, it didn't. Actually, the Star of David goes way back earlier than that. But it's definitely the symbol of Zionism. So here on the Islamic Origins channel on YouTube, we have an inscription written by Abd al-Malik with a Star of David in 710 AD. So that's way back around the time of the creation of Islam. And the official version of how old this Star of David is, Jewish community of Prague was the first to use the Star of David as its official symbol, and from the 17th century on, the six-pointed star became the official seal of many Jewish communities and a general sign of Judaism, though it has no biblical or Talmudic authority. So 710 AD is pretty early. In Acts 7, verse 43, let's start in 35. It says, "This Moses whom they refused, saying, Who made thee a ruler and a judge? The same did God send to be a ruler and a deliverer by the hand of the angel which appeared to him in the bush. He brought them out after he had showed wonders and signs in the land of Egypt, and in the Red Sea, and in the wilderness 40 years. This is that Moses which said unto the children of Israel, A prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me, him shall ye hear. This is he that was in the church in the wilderness with the angel which spoke to him in the Mount Sinai, and with our fathers who received the lively oracles to give unto us, to whom our fathers would not obey, but thrust him from them, and in their hearts turned back again into Egypt, saying to Aaron, Make us gods to go before us. For as for this Moses, which brought us out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what has become of him. And they made a calf in those days, and offered sacrifice unto the idol, and rejoiced in the works of their own hands. Then God turned and gave them up to worship the host of the heaven, as it was written in the book of the prophets, O ye house of Israel, have ye offered me slain beasts and sacrifices by the space of 40 years in the wilderness? Yea, ye took up the tabernacle of Moloch, and the star of your god Remphan, figures which ye made to worship them, and I will carry you away beyond Babylon. Now, it's funny that Mithraism, which is sun or fire worship, has the god Mithra riding a bull or the calf of Taurus. So this coin here is a Herod coin from the Judean period, and what we see here on top of the temple is the star. It's a six-pointed star that is awfully close to the Star of David and or the Star of Remphan. And what is a star? It's actually a sun. So is that star representing the sun? And is it from the Temple Mount, which is Mount Zion? History is telling us that Mount Zion is the Temple Mount where Abraham sacrificed or was to sacrifice Isaac, where Solomon built the temple. So we have this temple here with this Star of David on top of the temple, and then we have around 710 AD the Exilarch people using the Star of David. That early on, coming from Babylon, and I'm guessing that perhaps this priest king of Emesa worshipped the god of the mountain, which is this specific mountain, or a corruption of this story of the god of the mountain. And he, at this point, has become the sun god, or the Star of Remphan, facing east in the temple, praying to the east, praying to the sun like the Islamists pray to the sun, praying to the sun like the Roman Catholics pray to the sun. So Sol Invictus, brought by the unconquered sun, later the Western churches created a preparatory season for the Christmas festival known as Advent. Many new days were gradually added to the roster of martyr anniversaries to commemorate distinguished leaders and dedication of buildings and shrines in honor of the saints. If you go back and watch my video on the little season of Satan and linking it to potentially the Feast of Saturnalia, we have Saturnalia, the winter solstice celebration of ancient Rome, was undoubtedly the most popular holiday on Roman calendar. Saturnalia was originally a one-day feast celebrated on December 17, honoring Saturn, the ancient Roman god of agriculture, liberation, and time. The origins of Saturnalia are steeped in antiquity, dating back to the mythical golden age of Saturn's rule, when peace, prosperity, and equality reigned. Okay, this goes back to Kabbalism, when they believed that mankind was an androgynous being that basically reproduced by budding. It was a utopian era that these Kabbalists want to go back to, using Noahide rules and all kinds of crazy notions. But it's based on the Feast of Saturnalia and the Black Sun, which is the sun that's used for the Nazis and the Jesuits. Okay, so here we have a few of the Jesuit versions of the Black Sun. So heaven on earth, the black sun, and the Holy Grail. Now I've linked the Holy Grail to Nabatea as well in some of my videos. The black sun is a type of sun wheel symbol originating in Nazi Germany and later employed by the neo-Nazis and other far-right individuals and groups. The symbol design consists of 6 radial SS logos. It first appeared in Nazi Germany as a design element in a castle at Wewelsburg, remodeled and expanded by the head of the SS, Heinrich Himmler. So in later years of the Roman Republic, Saturnalia was extended to a week-long celebration from December 17th to December 23rd. However, it is vital to note that the festival's exact dates and duration could vary over different historical periods. So the festival began with a ritual sacrifice at the Temple of Saturn in the Roman Forum. Saturnalia's impact can still be felt in contemporary winter solstice celebrations. For instance, some Christmas traditions like the indulgence in food and drink festival, merriment, and the act of gift giving bear a striking resemblance to the custom of Saturnalia. So Saturnalia and the winter solstice. The celebrations coincided with the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. This astronomical event symbolized the death and rebirth of the sun, aligning well with the festival themes of renewal and inversion. So here we got this whole Sabbatean Frankish idea of inversion. The return of the light was symbolized by lighting candles and bonfires. Saturnalia has found mention in several literary works, most notably in writings of the Roman poets Catullus and Martial. Catullus referred to Saturnalia as the best of the days. Martial wrote several epigrams that provide rich details about the custom of gift-giving during Saturnalia. So while Saturnalia was dedicated to Saturn, it also had intriguing links to another Roman deity, Sol Invictus, or the unconquered sun. As the festival was celebrated during the darkest period of the year leading up to the winter solstice, the themes of light, renewal, and unconquerable nature of the sun played a significant role in Saturnalia's symbolism and rituals. Sol Invictus was a sun god of the later Roman Empire, introduced under the Emperor Aurelian around 274 AD and promoted as the leading deity. The cult of Sol Invictus celebrated Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquered sun, on December 25th. It was considered as the time when the sun, having reached its lowest point at the winter solstice, began to climb once again in the sky, symbolizing the victory of light over darkness. Interestingly, the birthday of Sol Invictus on December 25th also happens to be the date later designated in the Christian calendar as Christmas Day, the birth of Christ. While it's a topic of debate among historians, some argue that the choice of December 25th for Christmas may have been influenced by these pre-existing Roman festivals, providing a way for the new Christian religion to adopt and adapt popular pagan celebrations. Now, they're saying these traditions are actually Roman, but, they kind of come from elsewhere. So we have Dushara, is a pre-Islamic Arabian god worshipped by the Nabateans at Petra and Midian Selah. Of the city, he was the patron. Sephardic inscriptions imply he was the son of the goddess Al-Lat and that he assembled in the heavens with other deities. He is called Dushara from Petra. In classic Greek times, he was associated with Zeus because he was the chief of the Nabatean pantheon as well as Dionysus. The cult of Sol Invictus, god of the unconquered sun. In the 3rd century AD, Aurelian, the Roman emperor, instituted the cult of Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, and the Roman Empire began their official recognition of sun worship. Later in 307 AD, the Emperor Diocletian, who was a sun worshipper, wanted to crush the continuing growth of Christianity and ordered the destruction of all churches and Christian texts. So we're talking about real Christian texts here from the apostles. Diocletian was followed by the Emperor Constantine, who took the title Pontifex Maximus, the high priest of the sun. His coins were inscribed with the words Sol Invicto Comiti, committed to the invincible sun. In 325 AD, Constantine called the Council of Nicaea to decide what was to be written in the new scriptures. The rewritten Bible, and as a result, pagan sun worship was integrated with the worship of true source creator and called Catholicism. In 46 BC, when the Roman Julian calendar was adopted, December 24th was the shortest day of the year. Therefore, December 25th was the first annual day that daylight began to increase. The sun priests marked the occasion and called it Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. The Roman Catholic Church chose the 25th of December for the date of Jesus' birth in order to Christianize their pagan sun god worshipping rituals. The December 25th birth date was retained for all pagan sun gods by the Roman Saturnalia and Sol Invictus traditions: Horus, Krishna, Zarathustra, Mithra, Dionysus, Tammuz, Hermes, Hercules, Adonis, and Jesus were all born of virgins on December 25th. So setting the control religion. By the 4th century AD, Western Christian churches settled on the celebrating Christmas, the birth of the sun, on the 25th of December, which allowed them to incorporate the holiday with Saturnalia and other popular pagan midwich traditions, which are now called the 12 Days of Christmas. Saturnalia, held in mid-December, is an ancient Roman pagan festival honoring the agricultural god Saturn. The Black Stone is a rock set into the eastern corner of Kaaba, ancient building in the center of Grand Mosque in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. It is revered by Muslims as an Islamic relic, which, according to Muslim tradition, dates back to the time of Adam and Eve. It was venerated at the Kaaba in pre-Islamic pagan times. According to Islamic tradition, it was set intact into the Kaaba's wall by the Islamic prophet Muhammad in 605 AD, 5 years before his first revelation. Since then, it has been broken into fragments and is now cemented into a silver frame in the side of the Kaaba. It says here, Blackstone was originally a single piece of rock, but today it consists of several pieces that have been cemented together. They are a silver frame, which fastened by silver nails to the Kaaba's outer wall. The Black Stone was held in reverence well before Islam. It had long been associated with the Kaaba, which was built in the pre-Islamic period and was a site of pilgrimage of the Nabateans, who visited the shrine once a year to perform their pilgrimage. Yes, it was in Petra, not Mecca. The Kaaba held 360 idols of the Meccan gods. Semitic cultures of the Middle East had a tradition of using unusual stones to mark places of worship, while bowing, worshipping, and praying to such sacred objects is also described in the Tanakh as idolatrous. So it says here, and was subject of prophetic rebuke. The meteorite origin theory of the Black Stone has seen it likened by some writers to the meteorite which was placed and worshipped in the Greek temple of Artemis. So is it the same Black Stone that was worshipped by Elagabalus? So I'm going to play some of this video from Mel's channel in regard to Elagabalus and Muhammad. But first I just want to show how the Kaaba is a square of Saturn, a black square. So here we have the black cube depicted three-dimensionally in the Star of David, the Star of Remphan, that in Corinthians the kings of Judah took to Babylon with them. In Masonic rituals, specifically ceremonies conducted in accordance with the rite of lodge initiation, the incorporation of miniature black cubes during the course of such congregations indicates the eviction of prospective members from these proceedings. So we've got these little black cubes in Freemasonry. In Roman Catholicism, it's said that the cross shape is a unfolded cube. The Kaaba stone at Mecca is in a black cube. We have these occulted black cube art depictions around the world. And this cube shape that fits at the top of the Sephirot of Kabbalism. Now, we also have Jews wearing these black cubes in their forehead. So, this is the mark of the beast in the forehead, and they have the little uh, ties on their right hand or on their hand, which represents in the thoughts and actions, just like the mark of the beast. So in Revelation 16, verse 13, it says here, then the sixth angel poured out its bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the way of the kings from the east might be prepared. So where are the kings from the east? These are Persian kings. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon. So remember, the dragon's linked to Herods and this Nabatean or Nabu, the god of Babylon, out of the mouth of the beast of the sea, the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are spirits of demons performing signs, which go out to the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty. So what's all the battles been fought over it since? Well, since Israel basically, I'm saying here Muhammad being an Exilarch potentially, but definitely had an Exilarch as his sidekick. And Muhammad may have just been a title for certain Exilarchs. So the person who is personified as Muhammad in the Quran and in historical literature may have been a conglomerate of different people and characters, like this Elagabalus. They've taken the story of his history and created a character called Muhammad. I'm not saying there wasn't a real person that was Muhammad, but his name may have been the title of a man that they have created a fictional book around. And these three creatures have basically these spirits of frogs coming out of their mouth. Now, I think that those spirits of frogs are false doctrine and false religions. And we have all of these three Abrahamic faiths, which are false religions, being represented in this black cube. We have the false religion of Islam, we have the false religion of Talmudic Kabbalistic Judaism, and we have the false religion of the Roman Catholic version of Christianity. Revelation 13, the beast from the sea. And I stood in the sound of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns. I'm not going to explain the meaning of this, but it says, if anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. He is the patience and faith of the saints. He's given a mouth to speak great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. And he was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. So the saints are the 144,000, which we have in the next chapter. So he makes war with them. This is the persecution of the saints in the early Christian church by Rome. An authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life, or the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Now, just this verse here shows to any of these people that think it's just Israel that's saved, that it's not it, because it says authority was given to him over every tribe, every tongue and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life. So their names are not written in the book of life, but it's basically showing that many of them may be written in the book of life. He had authority over everyone, and within these tribes, in tongues and nations, there are those that will be written in the book of life. It says here also The dragon gave him his power. So the dragon gives power to these beasts. The dragon's more powerful than the beasts. The dragon is the ruler of everything. And we see in Revelation 20, this dragon comes back with Gog Magog against the saints of the end time. The dragon continues. Yes, it's bound for 1,000 years, but bound doesn't mean that it wasn't around on earth. This aristocratic lineage just didn't have the power over Christianity. It could not destroy Christianity. Christianity had 1,000 years of being preached upon the earth where the dragon could not destroy it. In the beginning, these beasts persecute the saints, but the dragon was bound for 1,000 years. And I saw one of his heads as it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshipped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast who is able to make war with him?" Then we have this beast of the earth. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb. So he's an imposter. He's trying to look like Jesus. He's an Exilarch. He is a king of the line of David who says that he rules the world. He rules Israel and the world because they believe in their Kabbalah that they inherit the earth and have dominion over us. And spoke like a dragon. So he spoke like a dragon. So he basically is of the authority of the dragon. Who's the dragon? The dragon is obviously related to these Exilarchs or these Babylonian Kabbalists or Talmudists. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in the presence and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceives those who dwell on the earth by whose sign which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. And it's this beast, he caused all both small and great, rich, poor, free and slave to receive a mark on their right hand or their foreheads, and that no one may buy, sell, except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. The only other use for this number in the Bible is for King Solomon. And I believe that this symbol here, the seal of Solomon, the 6-pointed star, perhaps is that symbol 666.